Hello dear students, welcome to Devika's Commerce and Management Academy. Today we'll see long-term finance, how to accumulate, what are the what are the sources of long-term finance. That we will see, very important topic as a finance students, whether you're doing BCom, BBA, MBA, MCom, and professional courses like CES, CS, CMA, whatever may be the courses. This topic is must practical to gain the practical knowledge. So how the companies accumulate the funds, and what are the sources, and how they can utilize it, all these things you will be learning in this chapter. Don't skip, but important topic. Now let me tell you, funds are the main important source for every organization. If funds are sufficient, if funds are accumulated properly, if funds are in a proper way, utilized in a proper way, then automatically the company can utilize everything smoothly. Now the sources of funds, what are the sources of funds? How we can accumulate, what are the sources? That we have to see. And the sources of funds depends on the organization. Sometimes organization may be small, medium, and very big multi-million organization, whatever it may be. It depends on the size of the organization, they require the funds. And the sources, different sources are there, I told you na. So some organizations need more of working capital. Working capital is for day-to-day transactions. I need working capital a lot. And some organizations may need long-term finance to purchase fixed assets, to invest on their organization activities. They may need long-term. But whatever it may be, every organization has its own policies. So how much is required, where we can collect it, what are the sources, right? All these things we'll be discussing in this class. Okay, mainly if you see sources of long-term finance we are discussing. Finance sources are different. First of all, the sources of finance, I would say first, rather than long-term. Forget about this sources of finance. What are the sources of finance? We'll discuss. Then after that, sources of long-term finance, we can go ahead. Sources of finance is three types. First one is long-term sources, and medium-term sources, and short-term sources. Now, long-term sources means it is for long period. When you take any sources, when you collect any funds, that is for long period. Generally, it would be more than 5 years. More than 5 years. Then we can say it as a long-term sources. We'll discuss in depth later. Second one is that medium-term sources. Medium-term sources means these are the medium-term sources. Medium-term sources means what is the period? Period is here 1 to 5 years. More than 1 year to 1 to 5 years. Investment is 1 to 5 years. More than 1 year and below 5 years. That we say it as medium-term sources. What are the medium-term sources? Public deposits and loans from commercial banks, and also leasing finance. These three are, we can say it as a medium-term sources. That is 1 to 5 years. Third category comes to short-term sources. Short-term means just below 1 year. When you take loan, when you take any funds below 1 year, that is called as short-term sources. This is below 1 year. Below 1 year, we say it as a short-term sources. What are the short-term sources? Bank credit, trade credit. Through the bank we can take credit, and through organizations also we can take credit, trade credit, bank credit, trade credit, installment credit, advances, and commercial papers. These are all the general sources from the banks itself only. So those are short-term sources. Right now in this class we are not going to discuss about medium-term sources and short-term sources. So this, every organization is having enough knowledge, and when time comes, when requirement is there, according to that they are in a position to accumulate, they are in a position to take the sources of short term or medium term. So that is why we are not going to discuss these two. Now sources of long term finance we are going to discuss. This is the major topic of today's class. Okay, sources of long term finance. Long term finance means long term, more than 5 years I wanted to get some sources, some finance I wanted to accumulate, then that is long term sources. In long term sources, these are the main sources. We'll discuss each and every point right now, and in depth in the coming classes we'll discuss each and every point. Right now I'll give you a briefing of what are the long term sources. First thing is that issue of shares. Shares are the main source of accumulating the funds. Every organization, share. So how many shares are there? Total 2 shares are there. One is issue of shares. A company can issue the shares to accumulate the fund. So first share is that we can say it as the equity shares. Second one is preference shares. These two are the main shares a company can issue. What are these equity shares? Let me give you a briefing. So equity shares are, we call it as ordinary shares. A company owner's shares. Company owner's funds also we say. Why? Because equity shares, when we issue, a person who purchases equity shares, he is eligible to share the profits and losses of the company. Are you getting it? So equity shareholders, they are going to share the profits and losses of the company. Loss also they are going to bear. If the company is in loss, that loss also makes difference to the equity shareholders, but up to the limitation of their shares only. Suppose I have purchased around 10,000 equity shares. Okay, 10,000 equity shares I have purchased. Company is under loss. If company is under profit, on this shares I am going to get every month some dividend. Dividend also fluctuates. Dividend fluctuates. When company is in profits, lots of profits, huge profits are there, then I may get a little bit more dividend. When company is under loss or may not be much profits, dividend will be less. When company is under loss, no dividend at all. Company is in total loss, then they may lose even the 10,000 rupees also. Their investment, my investment is 10,000, my investment 10,000 also I may miss. I may not get back this 10,000 also. Profits or losses I am going to share, and also if the company is under huge loss, 10,000 also I am not going to get back. So these are the main two features of equity shareholders. Equity shareholders means they are the true owners because they are going to share the profits and losses. If company is under more loss, even their share amount also they may not get back. So that is why we say them as owners of the true owners of the company. Okay, their dividend rate is always fluctuates depending on the company's profits and losses. So they are equity shareholders. But anyway, their what do you say? Their problem or their limit. There is one word I am unable to recollect it. Anyway, Anyway, their liability capacity is up to this 10,000 only, not more than that. Up to 10,000 liability, and beyond that they are not going to spare their personal assets. Only up to 10,000. Company is under huge loss, whatever it may be. At the most, I may not get. First thing is that I may not get the profits. I may not get even the 10,000 rupees also. That's all. Personal assets, no. Means liability is limited up to the shares, not their personal. These are the main points. Remember about the equity shares. Second thing is the preference shares. The word is saying preference. Preference shares means a preference will be given to these preference shareholders. Where? When company gets the profits. When company is in profits, first dividend preference is given to these people. First give them dividend, then after that we'll see the equity shareholders. Are you getting this point? Suppose a company got 1 crore. 1 crore profit they got. Profit this is, okay. When company gets a profit of 1 crore, first of all, they'll think about distributing this profit in the form of dividend to first to the preference shareholders. Preference shareholders first. At what rate? Already decided something, say 12% or 15% something. So according to that, they'll be given. They are not going to bear the losses. They are not going to share the losses of the company. They are going to share only the profits only. That is why we say them as the preference shareholders. This is first point to remember. Second point related to the preference shareholders are when company is under loss. Company is under loss. This year the company is unable to pay the dividend to the shareholders. Next year they'll take. Next year accumulated. Last year and this year also. Anyway, they are going to get the their dividend. Their dividend this year or last year, whatever it may be, everything they are going to get. That is why we say them as a preference shareholders. But true owners of the company, who are they? Equity shareholders, because they are bearing the losses and also profits, sharing everything. Companies under loss, even their shares amount also they may lose it. But here it is not like that. At any cost, first preference is given to these preference shareholders to get the dividend. Then whatever is left out of this 1 crore, that will be distributed to the equity shareholders. And that will be used for some other sources, some other activities. But preference is given to the preference shareholders. They are just like creditors of any company. Getting it? Issue of shares. Equity shares, preference shares. Very important. Please remember. This is main source of getting the long-term finance. In long-term finance, whenever you want, you'll think about issuing of shares. What should I issue? Preference shares or equity shares? How many preference shares I have to issue and how many equity shares I have to issue? That depends on the organization. Getting it? Now, second source is that retained earnings. Retained earnings is also another long-term finance source. What is retained earning? You must know first of all. Let me clear this area. What is retained earning? Whenever a company gets lots of profits, say company got 2 crores of profit. Company got 2 crores of profit. Out of 2 crores, what do they do? 2 crores? Are they going to distribute entire 2 crores to the preference shareholders and equity shareholders in the form of dividend? No. Any wise company, they do not do such kind of activity. Out of 2 crores, some amount, say for example 50 lakh. 50 lakh, they wanted to keep it as retained earnings. Retained earnings means this is the amount taken from the profits. Every year they get the profits. Whenever they get lots of profits, out of this amount, some amount, assumed that 50 lakh. It can be anything depending on the organization position, depending on the profits. Okay, assume that. So 50 lakh, they kept it as a retained earnings. Retained earnings are for the future uncertainty activities. In future, anything happens to the organization due to recession, due to market conditions, or companies under loss, in such cases, this amount is going to work like reserves. This amount, they can use it. Retained earnings. This will protect the organization. This will give the confidence to the organization. Retained earnings. The more retained earnings company is having means the company is in a very good position, safe position, no doubt at all. So that's about the retained earnings. Retained earnings also always long term. I kept it out of 2 crores 50 lakh as retained earnings. 50 lakh is going to utilize by the organization for long period. Whenever any uncertainty is there, then they can use it. Otherwise, that will retain in the organization itself only. This is also another long-term source, very important one. Third one is the debentures. Debentures, like companies issuing shares, na? In the same way, company can issue the debentures also. Debentures are one of the important source, long-term source of any organization. So debentures means, suppose a company is issuing debentures of say 10,000 or 1 lakh, say 1 lakh debentures company is issuing. Debentures are compulsory and it is like a creditors to the organization. They have to pay back at any cost. Though the company is under loss also, if the company is closing position, still first preference will be given to the debenture holders. Let them to get back their money. Debentures, suppose say 1 lakh I have a company has issued. Company issued 1 lakh. Out of this, I have purchased say 1,000 debentures. My investment is 1,000 purchasing of debentures. When I purchase debentures of 1,000, on this I am going to get interest. If I purchase shares, equity shares or preference shares, I get dividend. If I purchase debentures, then I get interest. It always decided in the beginning itself only. Like 12% dividend will be given to the debenture holders. 12% means every year I'll be getting 12% only, not more than that or not less than this. So that's the interest I'm going to get every year. Whatever may be the position of the company is under loss, company is not getting huge profits, or company is getting lots of profits, doesn't matter. As per the decision, I'll be getting 12% interest on this debentures. If company is closing, winding up, at that position also, first preference will be given to the debenture holders. First pay off everything, whatever they have invested by the debenture holders, pay off them first. Then after that, we'll see the shareholders. In shareholders also, first whom do we prefer? Preference shareholders. And next, last least preference is given to the equity shareholders. Are you getting this point? Very important. Okay, that's about the debenture holders. Debenture holders are always on the safe side. They'll be getting, their investment is safe. They'll be getting every year interest, whatever is decided. Okay, so this is also one of the best source to gain the long-term finance. And last one is that long-term loans. Long-term loans means generally they take loans from any organization, from financial institutions or from any place to purchase the fixed assets. Any fixed assets wanted to purchase. This is to purchase any fixed assets. Main purpose is this. For this purpose, taking long-term loan. Purchasing fixed assets. Suppose I wanted to establish an organization. I need lots of equipments. Building I need, furniture I want, machinery I want, office tables and setup, everything I want. For that purpose, ready to take the long-term loan. It can be taken from anyone, from the financial institutions or from the banks, from anywhere you can take, but main purpose is to purchase the fixed asset or for repair or re-establishment, renovation, any such kind of activities we can go for the long-term finance. These are the main 4 sources to get the long-term finance. Each and every point, issue of shares and debentures, these 2 are the main important point. And related to the retained earnings and long-term loans, there is nothing much to discuss. Just to have an idea is enough. But about the issue of shares, both preference shares and equity shares, these 2 and debentures, these 2 points we are going to discuss in depth in the coming classes, because you must know what are the shares. If you have idea, then only you will be in a position to get the shares in the coming years. So that is why these 2 topics we'll discuss in depth in the coming classes. Hope it is clear. Very important. Gain the knowledge, and of course examination point of view also very important. How do you accumulate the sources? What are the sources of funds? So this is important. Stay connected. In the coming classes we'll discuss about the shares and debentures in depth. Okay, and by the way, Don't forget to share these videos. Stay connected and study well. Have a bright career. Good luck.